I built a luxury car empire from the ground up, but to expose the dark truth poisoning its soul, I had to become a complete nobody in my own company.
The smell of new car leather and industrial-grade air freshener is supposed to be the smell of my success. It's the scent I've associated with pride since I was a kid, watching my dad work his way up from a grease-stained mechanic to the owner of a small independent lot. When he passed, he left me that lot. I poured my life, my soul, and every penny I had into it, transforming Griffin's Goodbyes into Griffin Premier Auto, the #1 luxury import dealership in the state. My picture is on the wall in the main showroom, a big glossy photo of me in a tailored suit shaking the mayor's hand. I built this place on 2 principles my father drilled into me. Treat every person who walks through that door with respect, and a man's word is his bond. Lately, though, I'd been feeling like I was the only one in the building who still believed in that. It started subtly, a dip in sales figures for a quarter. I chalked it up to market fluctuations. But then the online reviews started trickling in. They weren't the usual complaints about pricing or a feature someone didn't like. These were different, more personal. Felt like they were doing me a favor just by talking to me, one read. Another said, walked around for 20 minutes and not a single salesperson would even make eye contact. A white couple came in after me and was swarmed instantly. The one that really got under my skin was from a young woman who wrote, "The finance manager laughed when I told him my budget. He said maybe I should try the used car lot down the street." All these reviews had one thing in common. The authors were all people of color. My people. I run a tight ship. My team is the best paid in the city. We have diversity initiatives, sensitivity training, the whole corporate song and dance. I thought we were better than this. I called a meeting with my general manager, Rick. Rick's a good man, a little old school, but he's been with me since the beginning. I showed him the printouts. He looked pale. "Marcus, I swear I had no idea. Chad, maybe? Kevin? I don't know. They're my top salesmen. They move units." "They're not moving units for everyone, Rick," I said, my voice dangerously low. "These numbers, sales to minority buyers are down 40% year over year, in a market where they're up across the board. Explain that to me." He couldn't. He just shook his head, looking defeated. I knew then that a memo or another mandatory training session wasn't going to cut it. This was a rot, a sickness in the culture I had built, and I needed to cut it out at the source. But I couldn't do it as Marcus Griffin, the owner. The moment I walk onto the sales floor, everyone straightens up, puts on their best face, and spouts the company line. I needed to see what happened when the boss wasn't looking. That's when the crazy idea took root. "Rick," I said, leaning forward, "I want you to hire someone." Rick's eyebrows shot up. "A secret shopper? We can do that." "No, not a secret shopper. Someone who will be on the floor, day in, day out. Someone who can see everything." I took a deep breath. "You're going to hire me." Rick stared at me like I just suggested we start selling spaceships. But the more I explained, the more the crazy idea started to sound like the only idea. We worked out the details. I'd be Dion, a cousin of Rick's wife who was down on his luck and looking for a fresh start. I shaved the goatee I'd had for 15 years, traded my Italian suits for a cheap, ill-fitting polo shirt and baggy khakis from a discount store. I put on a pair of non-prescription glasses and a baseball cap I wouldn't have been caught dead in a week before. Looking in the mirror was a shock. The confident, powerful owner was gone. In his place was a nervous, unremarkable man who looked like he was just hoping to make rent. It was perfect. My first day was a masterclass in humiliation. Rick introduced me to the sales team as Dion, the new trainee. The head of sales, a slick, over-tanned guy named Chad, looked me up and down like I was something he'd scraped off his shoe. "Right, another green pea," he sneered, not even bothering to shake my hand. "Just stay out of my way, shadow me, and for God's sake, don't talk to my customers unless I tell you to." For the next few hours, I was invisible. I followed Chad around, listening to his pitches, watching him work. He was good, I had to admit. Charismatic, knowledgeable, and ruthless. He laid the charm on thick with a wealthy-looking older couple, upselling them on a service package they absolutely didn't need. But I also saw the little things. The way he and another salesman, Kevin, shared a look and a smirk when a Hispanic family walked in, then proceeding to ignore them until they left. The quiet jokes they told by the coffee machine, dripping with stereotypes and casual bigotry. It was worse than I thought. This wasn't just one or two bad apples, it was a culture, a toxic boys club where they saw customers not as people, but as stereotypes to be exploited or dismissed. My blood boiled, but I had to play my part. I was Dion, the nobody. I just watched, and I remembered. The real test came late in the afternoon. A beautiful brand new black SUV pulled into a prime spot right in front of the showroom. A black family got out, a man and a woman who looked to be in their late 30s and their two young kids who immediately pressed their faces against the glass, eyes wide with excitement. They were exactly the kind of aspirational, successful family I had built my dealership to serve. They radiated confidence and success. This was it. An easy sale, a home run. I looked over at Chad, expecting him to snap into action, to put on that million-dollar smile. Instead, he just watched him for a moment, his lip curled in a slight sneer. He glanced over at me, his trainee, and leaned in conspiratorially, his voice a low whisper that dripped with condescension. "All right, Green Pea, lesson number 1, he murmured, not taking his eyes off the family. See them? Don't waste your breath. They're just here for a joyride, trying to look important. Tire kickers with the credit score of a goldfish. Now watch." He straightened his tie, a predatory glint in his eye, as a white man in a worn-down sedan pulled up behind the family's pristine SUV.
He strode past the black family without so much as a nod, a shark ignoring perfectly good prey for what he perceived as an easier meal. I watched, my jaw clenched so tight my teeth ached, as Chad laid on the charm for the man in the beat-up sedan. He was a master, I'll give him that. He talked about trade-in values, financing options, and the rugged reliability of our entry-level models. All the while, the family stood there, adrift in a sea of luxury cars. The father had his arm around his wife, their hopeful expression slowly souring into confusion, then disappointment. My heart broke for them. They had come to my dealership, a place I built to be a symbol of black success, and they were being treated like they were invisible. Finally, Kevin, another of the so-called top guys, sauntered over to them. He didn't smile, he didn't offer a handshake. "Can I help you folks with something?" he asked, his tone flat, his eyes already scanning the lot for his next target. "Yes," the man said, his voice rich and steady. "We're interested in the new GV80, the model in the showroom. We'd like to test drive it." Kevin blinked, a flicker of surprise in his eyes before it was replaced by a familiar, dismissive arrogance. "That's our top-of-the-line model, fully loaded," he said, as if that explained everything. He didn't move towards the door. He didn't offer to get the keys. He just stood there. "Tell you what, I can grab you a brochure. It has all the specs." He disappeared inside and came back a moment later, thrusting a glossy pamphlet into the man's hand before turning on his heel and walking away. The family stood there for another 30 seconds, stunned into silence. The father looked down at the brochure, then at his wife. He shook his head, a single sharp motion of disgust. He ushered his kids back into their expensive SUV, and without a backward glance, they drove off my lot. I just watched a $70,000 sale, probably cash, drive away because my employee couldn't be bothered to open a door for a black man. My hands were balled into fists in the pockets of my cheap khakis.
It took every ounce of self-control I possessed not to walk over to Kevin, rip the name tag off his chest, and throw him out onto the curb myself. But I couldn't. I was Dion, and Dion was powerless. A few minutes later, Chad came strutting back, beaming. See, easy peasy. Sold the guy a certified pre-owned. Not a huge commission, but it's a number on the board. Bread and butter, my friend. He clapped me on the shoulder. You see how that family just left? Told you, tire kickers. I had to say something. I pitched my voice a little higher, trying to sound naive. I don't know, Chad. They looked pretty serious. Their car was brand new. Chad let out a condescending chuckle. Dion, 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 you've got a lot to learn. You can't just go by the car. That's rookie stuff. You gotta develop a sense for it, a gut feeling. Some people are buyers, and some people are liabilities. You learn to spot the liabilities from a mile away. Saves you a lot of time. He gestured with his head towards the coffee machine. Come on, I'll teach you the real secrets. Over by the lukewarm coffee, Kevin and the finance manager, a weaselly guy named Gary, had joined him. The three of them were the dealership's apex predators, and I was the new herbivore in the herd. Heard you sent the brochure family packing, Kev, Gary snickered. Yeah, wanted to test drive the showroom model, Kevin said, rolling his eyes. Probably just wanted to take pictures for their Instagram. I did them a favor, saved them the embarrassment of getting their credit pulled and coming back with a 480. They all laughed. It was a cold, ugly sound that echoed in the cavernous showroom. It was the sound of my father's dream dying. You did the right thing, Chad said, turning to me, making sure the trainee was absorbing the lesson. We run a credit check before any test drive on the high-end models. It's policy. It wasn't policy. It was his policy. A policy I had never, ever approved. It was a gatekeeping tool designed specifically to screen out people he'd already judged unworthy. I just nodded slowly, filing the information away. Every word was another nail in their professional coffins. The rest of the day was a parade of the same quiet, insidious poison. An Indian couple was steered away from the luxury sedans and towards the more sensible family cars. A young black man who came in asking about sports copes was tailed by security until he left. The gut feeling Chad was so proud of was nothing more than a finely tuned bigotry machine. As the day wound down and the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the polished floor, a beat-up 10-year-old domestic sedan pulled into the lot. An elderly black woman, probably in her late 70s, got out. She moved slowly, with a slight limp, clutching a worn leather handbag. She looked nervous and out of place, her eyes wide as she took in the gleaming machines around her. Chad, Kevin, and Gary were packing up, eager to leave. They saw her and collectively groaned. "You've got to be kidding me," Kevin muttered. 5 minutes to close and we get a straggler." Chad looked at her, then he looked at me. A wicked, predatory smile spread across his face. He saw an opportunity, not for a sale, but for a bit of sport at my expense. He slung an arm around my shoulder, his voice dripping with false mentorship. "All right, Dion, your first real test," he said, loud enough for the others to hear. "She's obviously lost, probably looking for the bus station. We're closing up, and I don't want her wandering around here all night. I want you to go out there and handle it." "What do you mean? Should I see what she needs?" His smile tightened. "No, I mean get rid of her. Tell her we're closed. Tell her she needs an appointment. Tell her we're all out of cars. I don't care what you say. Just make sure she's off this lot in the next 2 minutes so we can go home. Don't screw it up." The three of them stood by the glass doors, arms crossed, watching me like I was a gladiator being shoved into the arena. This wasn't a test of my sales ability. It was a hazing ritual, a loyalty test. They wanted to see if I would fall in line, if I had what it took to be one of them. They wanted me to humiliate an old woman for their amusement. Every instinct screamed at me to pull out my keys, walk over to my office, and fire them on the spot. But I couldn't. Not yet. I had to see this through. I had to see how deep the rot went. I walked out of the air-conditioned showroom into the warm evening air. The woman was peering at the window sticker on a sleek silver convertible, her brow furrowed in concentration. As I approached, she looked up, a little startled. Up close, I could see the lines of exhaustion and worry etched around her kind eyes. "Excuse me, ma'am," I started, keeping my voice gentle. "I'm Dion. Can I help you with anything? We're about to close for the evening." She clutched her handbag tighter. "Oh, I'm so sorry to be a bother, young man. I know it's late. My old car finally gave up on me today, right in the middle of an intersection. I need something reliable. My grandson, he told me this was the best place to come. He said you all were honest folk here."
The irony was a punch to the gut. My grandson. He sent his grandmother to my dealership, trusting my name, trusting the reputation I had bled for. And she was about to be turned away like trash. I could feel Chad's eyes burning a hole in my back. "I'm sure we can find something for you," I said, making a decision. "Why don't you tell me what you're looking for?" Her face brightened with a fragile hope. "Well, I don't need anything fancy, just something safe. Something that'll start every morning so I can get to my doctor's appointments and visit my sister over in the next town. My grandson, Michael, he helps me out, but he has his own family to worry about. He insisted I come here, said a man named Marcus Griffin runs a fair business." She said my name. And in that moment, I wasn't Dion the trainee anymore. I was Marcus Griffin, the man who had promised to run a fair business. I looked back at the showroom. Chad was shaking his head in disgust, mouthing the words, "What are you doing?" I ignored him. I smiled at the woman. "Well, Michael sounds like a smart young man. Let's take a look. We have some excellent certified pre-owned vehicles that are incredibly reliable and come with a great warranty. They're right over here." I spent the next 45 minutes with her. Her name was Eleanor. She told me about her grandkids, her garden, and the fixed income budget she was trying to stick to. She wasn't a tire kicker or a liability. She was a sweet, genuine woman in a tough spot, looking for someone to treat her with a little dignity. I showed her a 3-year-old sedan, a perfect car for her. It was safe, immaculate, and well within her price range. I answered all her questions, pointing out the safety features and the easy-to-read dashboard. "It's beautiful," she said, her hand stroking the hood. "But financing. My credit isn't what it used to be since my husband passed." "Don't you worry about that, Eleanor," I said. "Let's go inside and talk to our finance manager. I'm sure we can work something out." Walking back into the showroom was like walking into a freezer. Chad, Kevin, and Gary were standing there, their faces masks of pure fury. The dealership was empty, the lights dimmed. We were the only ones left. "Dion, my office now," Chad hissed, his voice dangerously low. He didn't even look at Eleanor. I turned to her. "Eleanor, please have a seat right here. I'll be just one moment." I walked past Chad and into the small glass-walled office he used on the sales floor. He followed me in and slammed the door. "What in the hell do you think you're doing?" he snarled, his face inches from mine. "I gave you a direct order, one simple instruction: get rid of her. And you've been out there for nearly an hour, playing social worker with some deadbeat grandma." "She's a customer, Chad," I said, my voice even. "She's a waste of my time," he shot back, "and your time. You think Gary is going to get her financed? Look at her. She's got a $20 bill and a bus pass in that purse.
You just wasted the last hour of our lives, and now you expect my finance manager to stay late to run a pointless credit check that's gonna come back with a resounding no? It's our job to try. No. He slammed his hand on the desk. Your job is to do what I tell you. Your job is to learn how to make money, not friends. You're off to a real terrible start, Dion. I don't think you have what it takes to work here. He pointed a finger at my chest. Now you are going to go out there and you're going to tell that woman that our finance department is closed and she has to come back tomorrow. And when she does, you make sure you're busy with a real customer. Do you understand me? I stared at him, at the ugly entitlement twisting his features. This was it, the point of no return. I saw the dealership I built being desecrated by this man's prejudice and greed. I saw my father's legacy being spat on. No, I said, my voice dropping to its natural register, the one that commanded boardrooms and silenced arguments, the one he had never heard before. I don't think I will. Chad's angry expression faltered, replaced by a flicker of confusion. The shift in my tone, my posture, threw him off balance. What did you just say to me? I said, no, I repeated, standing up straighter, letting the guise of Dion fall away like a cheap coat. I looked him dead in the eye. You see, you're not going to be speaking to any more customers tonight, Chad. In fact, you're not going to be speaking to any more customers here ever again. And neither is Kevin. But you're right about one thing. Gary, our finance manager, is about to be very busy. He's going to be busy working out the best possible deal for Eleanor. And then he's going to be busy packing up his desk. Chad stared at me, his mouth slightly agape, the gears turning in his head. He looked from my face to my cheap clothes and back again, the smug superiority draining away, replaced by a dawning, horrified realization. Who the hell are you? He stammered. I smiled, but it wasn't a friendly one. I reached into my pocket, my fingers closing around the cool metal of my office keys. I said, I'm the guy who signs your paychecks, or at least I was. Now, get out of my office. The silence in the small office was deafening. The only sound was the faint jingling of the keys in my hand. Chad's face went through a rapid-fire series of emotions: confusion, disbelief, dawning horror, and finally a pathetic, sputtering rage. You're not Dion," he stammered, his voice barely a whisper. He looked at my face, really looked at it for the first time, and I could see the moment the recognition clicked. He'd seen me 100 times, in photos, at the annual Christmas party, in the company newsletter. But he'd never seen me. He'd only ever seen what he wanted to see: a cheap suit, a non-threat, a nobody. No, I said, my voice cold and hard as the polished granite floor. I'm Marcus Griffin, and this is my dealership, the one you and your friends have been treating like your own personal clubhouse for bigotry.
I stepped out of the office, leaving Chad frozen in place. Kevin and Gary looked like they had seen a ghost. They started to stammer, to backpedal. "Mr. Griffin, sir, this is a misunderstanding," Kevin began, holding up his hands. "Chad was he was testing the new guy. It was a joke." "A joke?" I repeated, my voice echoing in the quiet showroom. "You think treating an elderly woman like garbage is a joke? You think costing this dealership a $70,000 sale this afternoon because you couldn't be bothered to show a black family a car was a joke? I've spent one day on your sales floor, and I've seen enough to know this isn't a misunderstanding. It's a pattern. It's a culture. It's a cancer that you three have been nurturing in the heart of my company." I walked over to Eleanor, who was watching the scene unfold with wide, concerned eyes. I gave her a reassuring smile. "Eleanor, I am so sorry for the way you were treated tonight. My name is Marcus Griffin. I'm the owner. Please, allow me to handle your financing personally. It's the very least I can do." Then I turned back to the three of them. My general manager, Rick, had just arrived, alerted by a text I'd sent him. He stood at the entrance, his face grim. He knew what was coming. "Chad, you're fired. Kevin, you're fired. Gary," I said, looking at the weaselly finance manager, "your blatant disregard for customers who don't fit your preferred profile is a liability I will not tolerate. You're fired. Rick will escort you to your desks to collect your personal belongings. You will be out of this building in 10 minutes. Your final paychecks will be mailed to you." They just stood there, speechless. The arrogance and swagger had completely evaporated, leaving behind three pale, scared men who had just seen their comfortable world crumble. Chad finally found his voice, a pathetic whine. "You can't do this. I'm your top salesman. I move more units than anyone." "You move units for some people," I corrected him, "but my dealership is for everyone. You seem to have forgotten that. You forgot the first rule my father taught me. Treat every person who walks through that door with respect. You failed. Now get out." Rick, bless his soul, stepped forward and did his job, his expression unreadable as he herded the three disgraced employees towards their desks. As they packed their things, a pathetic collection of coffee mugs and framed photos, the rest of the team started to trickle in for the evening shift. They saw the scene. The owner in cheap clothes, the three top salesmen being escorted out, and a nervous hush fell over the room. Word would spread like wildfire. The message would be crystal clear. After they were gone, the silence they left behind felt clean, purifying. I took a deep breath of the air-freshened air, and for the first time all day, it smelled like success again. I walked over to my main office, shed the Dion costume, and put on the spare suit I kept there. When I came out, I was myself again. I personally walked Eleanor through the financing. We found a rate that worked for her fixed income. I waived the dealership fees and threw in a 2-year complimentary service package. When she signed the papers, her hands were trembling slightly, but her eyes were shining with tears of gratitude. I don't know what to say, Mr. Griffin," she said as I handed her the keys to her new, reliable sedan. "Michael was right about you." "Please, call me Marcus," I said, shaking her hand. "And you tell Michael that I owe him one. You both reminded me what this place is supposed to be about." I walked her out to her car and watched her drive off the lot, safe and secure. The next morning, I called an all-hands meeting. I stood before my entire team, the story of Dion now the stuff of dealership legend. I didn't yell, I didn't threaten, I just told them the truth. I told them about the reviews, the numbers, and what I saw with my own eyes. I told them about the family in the SUV, and I told them about Eleanor. "This dealership bears my family's name," I finished, my voice steady and strong. "That name will be a symbol of integrity, respect, and excellence. It will be a place where a person's character is what matters, not the color of their skin or the perceived size of their wallet. We will serve everyone. That is not a suggestion. It is not a guideline. It is the only way we will do business from this day forward. Anyone who has a problem with that, the door is right over there." No one moved. No one even breathed. In their eyes, I saw a new understanding, a renewed respect. The rot was cut out. The healing could begin. Sales to minority customers tripled in the next quarter. The positive reviews started pouring in, drowning out the old ones. And about a month later, a beautiful black SUV pulled into the lot. It was the same family from that first day. The father got out, saw me standing on the showroom floor, and walked right over. "You're Marcus Griffin, right?" he asked. I nodded. "I heard some things had changed around here. We decided to give you another chance." I broke into the biggest, most genuine smile I'd had in a year. "Welcome to Griffin Premier Auto," I said, extending my hand. "Let me show you that GV80."